is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Fellow Show. Happy Thanksgiving week. Hope everyone's doing well. It's Tuesday night, November 23rd. We're going to hang out for the next, 30, 40 minutes or so and get everything you guys need for the waiver wire. And we can start sit questions, whatever you guys have. So fire up your questions in the comments. I'm just going to read over my column over at thefantasyfellowship.com. We'll talk about everything that we're looking forward to. We got no buys this week, so it's a Thanksgiving week full of football. Thursday, one game on Friday, all the other games on Sunday and one Monday night. The injuries we're going to monitor this week, we have a few quarterback injuries. Brock Purdy, shoulder injury. They're saying that he's likely to play this week, but we'll have to monitor that with practice reports tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Trevor Lawrence with the shoulder injury. They're saying he's limited and he's been practicing this week. They're going to make a decision on him later in the week. There's a good chance that he plays in week number 13, so that could lift guys like Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram, some of the running backs there. Could be nice for the Jags players. Gardner Minshew has a season-ending injury. That's going to open up Aiden O'Connell, eligible to return this week. Sounds like he's expected to start for the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell, need a guy in Superflex, you can look for Aiden O'Connell. Running backs, David Montgomery, shoulder. They're saying that he's fine. Maybe it was more precaution that they held him out in the second half of last week. It does look like David Montgomery will be available Thursday morning. You have J.K. Dobbins with the knee injury. We're waiting more information here. Not sure if he's going to be able to play. Probably not going to practice tomorrow. We'll monitor J.K. Dobbins and his knee injury. Brian Robinson Jr. for the Commanders. He's ankle injury. I'm not sure. He injured it twice on Sunday here, so we'll watch for him. I don't think he's going to play, but we'll see. Isaiah Pacheco for the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs play on Friday. I'm expecting Isaiah Pacheco to play. So low-end RB2 play. Austin Eckler left with a concussion on that last kick return of the game. I don't know if he's going to play. We'll see. It looks like Jeremy McNichols might be the waiver wire guy we're looking for this week. Raiders, Alexander Madison and running back Amir White. We'll see if those guys can go. We'll talk about Amir Abdullah in a little bit. Tajay Spears, concussion, not sure. He missed last week. He's probably on track to play this week. We'll see about that. And Hank Bigsby, bye week last week, missed the week before that ankle. He might be good to go entering week 13. Receivers, you got a couple guys with hamstrings, Devonta Smith, Darnell Mooney. We'll see if they can go this week. Ladd McConkey, I just wrote on the report, he's been dealing with a shoulder injury. We'll see if he's going to go. He did look good last night. Chris Olave, I have noted here, able to return week 15 with a concussion. Maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. Cedric Tillman left with a concussion last Thursday night. Not sure if he's going to make it. They do play Monday night, so we'll have to watch those reports over the weekend. Keon Coleman with a wrist injury. Not sure if we're going to see him after the bye week. And then Romeo Doubs got a concussion. I think he's doubtful for week 12 on Thursday night football this week, Thanksgiving night. Couple tight ends for you guys. Dalton Kincaid with the knee injury. I think he's expected to be back. Jake Ferguson with the concussion. Maybe he goes on Thursday. Thanksgiving, that's the middle game. Noah Fant with the groin injury. Not sure we're using him. They put Hayden Hurst on IR. And then Tavian Sanders with a bad neck injury. Not sure we're going to see anytime soon. So that's the injuries that I'm watching. Favorite ads for the week. If you guys need a quarterback play, Russell Wilson's at Cincinnati, Geno Smith at New York Jets. We're a little revenge for Geno. Anthony Richardson at New England, Matthew Stafford at New Orleans, and I got Trevor Lawrence against Houston. So a lot of road quarterbacks here. The top waiver running backs are going to be Gus Edwards with the Dobbins injury, Amir Abdullah, just because we're watching Madison and Zamir White. And Abdullah looks good as a receiving back. Jeremy McNichols in Washington, and then just handcuffs in general. Receivers, we're looking at Demario Douglas, Devon Vele, MVS, Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen. If someone drops Romeo Doubs, pick him up. Otherwise, I do think Dontavian Wicks could be a plug-and-play this Thursday night. Ray McLeod, we're going to monitor Darnell Mooney. And then a couple D guys for you. Nick West-Kakine, the touchdown machine, and David Moore for the Carolina Panthers. If you need a tight end, it's kind of the same list as last week. You got Jonnu, Will Disley, Taysom Hill, and then we'll see about Luke Schoonmaker with Jake Ferguson this week. And then if Dawson Knox might be the guy if Kincaid can't go. Defenses, Tampa Bay at Carolina, Dallas versus the Giants, Rams at New Orleans, and Seahawks against the Jets. Those are the defenses for you. So that's all I got for my article. I'm going to open up the chat here and get going here. Good evening to Harris. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to ask my questions a little bit early today. Awesome. Eagles, Titans, or Saints? Let me pull up a couple things here. I'm going to look at the DraftKings game lines and kind of see where we're looking at for some of these games. I'm assuming you're asking about defenses here, and if I filter by the lowest point totals, I mean the Titans against. I'm assuming you're thinking Titans defense. I don't really want to mess with Washington. Washington is expected to score about 25 points this week. They're 5.5-point favorites. It's in Washington. Don't really want to mess with the Titans. As for the Saints, going up against the Rams, not sure I really want to deal with that either. The Saints, I'm seeing the Saints are projected to score, or I guess the Rams, they're playing the Rams this weekend. The Rams are projected to score 25.75 points. That puts them as like the 7th or 6th highest scorer this week. So I'm not interested really in the Saints. And then you have the Eagles down here against Baltimore. These are really not my favorite option. I guess if I have to choose one, I guess I'll go with the Titans. They've been one of the stingier defenses. I'll go with the Titans here, even though I don't really like that group. Dallas, Buffalo, or the Colts. I think you got to go Dallas here. Buffalo, I do like Buffalo this weekend in general, but I'm not super excited to play San Francisco Sunday Night Football. That should be a good game. I'm going to rank them Dallas, Colts, Buffalo. Colts, Giants, Cowboys. I'm going Cowboys. Cowboys, Colts, or Seahawks. I'm going Cowboys. And then drop Stafford or Cousins. I mean, these guys are kind of the same player. They both don't run the ball, older statue quarterbacks. I'm going to hold on to Stafford. I'm not looking at the schedules or anything, but I'm going to keep Stafford. You can drop Cousins. Jets, Cowboys, or Colts. I'm going to stick with the Cowboys here. I think the Cowboys are a good play against the Giants this weekend, this Thursday. Who's a good quarterback to pick up for Week 14? I haven't looked ahead to Week 14 yet. Let me pull up the schedule. So Week 14 schedule, we're going to have a few teams on bye. That's 6 teams. We've got Denver, Indy, the Patriots, the Commanders, Baltimore, and Houston. So potentially, 4 starting quarterbacks, whether it's Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, those guys might all be out. So if I'm looking ahead here at the schedule, Jared Goff's at home against Green Bay. That's an interesting one on Thursday Night Football. Jacksonville at Tennessee. Maybe you could look at Will Levis or Trevor Lawrence. New York Jets against Miami. I like Tua Tagovailoa in that one. Atlanta at Minnesota. Maybe Kirk Cousins is the interesting guy there returning to Minnesota. Maybe Kirk might be good for Week 14. Otherwise, Russell Wilson's at home against Cleveland. I don't mind that. I think Baker Mayfield at home against the Raiders is fun. Maybe Geno at Arizona. Maybe Matthew Stafford at home against the Bills. They might have to air it out in that one. Those are just some of the names that are sticking out to me. So Herbert, I still like Justin Herbert, but he's probably been picked up by now. So it's looking like maybe Trevor Lawrence, maybe Kirk Cousins, maybe Derek Carr at New York Giants, maybe Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield. Those are some of the names. Washington Cowboys or the Giants. I'm going to go Cowboys. And JSC says we're in a bit of a pickle. I still won, but I'm not sure what's going on with Dobbins, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to get Edwards off waivers. You think Hunt will still have some value? I think Hunt will still have some value for this week. Obviously, with Pacheco coming back, that's going to hurt his rushing opportunities. I think Carson Steele gets completely wiped away from this backfield, and he hadn't been getting a lot of snaps or touches either. I still think Samaje Perine has a little bit of work as the passing down, third down kind of guy. But for this first game back against the Raiders, and Pacheco's practicing in full, which is good to see, but they want to ramp him up slowly. So if I had to project, the workload for this week, let me pull up my post-game notes here. Actually, I'm going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs stats. And let's see what the Chiefs are doing. So they have got about 31 carries per game, roughly, which is a lot. That's a lot of carries per game. Let me just do the math on that real quick. 315 carries divided by 11. Okay, it's more like 28 carries a game. So if they somehow do get up to 28 carries, maybe that's something still like 15 or 16 for Kareem Hunt, maybe 6 to 10 for Isaiah Pacheco, a couple for Mahomes, a couple for maybe one for P, something like that. I think for at least this week, I still trust Kareem Hunt as like a low-end RB2. He might still be the goal line back. He is the bigger kind of veteran plotting back for Kansas City. So I still think Kareem Hunt's in a decent play this week. but obviously Pacheco really puts a dent into his upside. So if I'm ranking Kareem Hunt, he's probably like RB30 in that range. So he's going to retain a little bit of value, but we have to learn a little bit each game with the Chiefs. How would you rank Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley for MVP? Okay. Man, so as good as Saquon Barkley is playing, I think Jalen Hurts is playing just as good. So I think it's going to be hard for Saquon Barkley to win MVP. I think Barkley is the clear offensive player of the year candidate. Usually this award's very tough. It usually goes to a quarterback almost every time. So I almost want to remove Barkley from the MVP, or at least put him third in this question. I'm moving to DraftKings Sportsbook here to see these MVP odds right now. So I would bet it's between Josh, maybe Lamar. Let me see if I can find the MVP odds real quick here. Where are the awards? All right, awards. MVP. So right now they got Josh Allen plus 150, Lamar Jackson plus 250, and Saquon Barkley is third in the running at plus 475. So I think it's squarely between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I don't know if those two teams, do they play each other this year? The Bills and the Ravens, do they play each other yet this year? Let me look. No, we don't get a Buffalo Bills Ravens matchup. I think right now, I think I'm going to give it to Josh Allen slightly, just because you remove Stephon Diggs and you don't really make any major adds to this team, and they're still playing very good football. They're 9-2 right now, so it's kind of an addition by subtraction. Josh Allen playing very well. They have a good run game, have a good defense, and Josh Allen has been very, very steady this year, not really needing to blow up all the numbers and things like that, but he's still playing at a high level. Lamar Jackson looks good. He's the closer two, so I'm ranking him Josh Allen, Lamar, Saquon is how I would do it. Also, most valuable player in fantasy football. Most valuable player in fantasy football, I think, would be Saquon. That one is very clear to me because, we know quarterbacks are going to hit, these 20-point games routinely. But Saquon Barkley really surprised me. I mean, I don't have a lot of Saquon Barkley in my portfolio this year. Lamar Jackson's currently the highest scoring fantasy player, but Barkley number 2, Jamar Chase number 3, Hurts number 4. I think for me, I would go Saquon Barkley's the MVP. Lamar would be the MVP of the quarterbacks. Jamar Chase has been the best for wide receivers so far. And then I guess the best sleeper probably has been Jaden Daniels. Maybe Baker Mayfield's been the best, kind of waiver type quarterback here. And then Bo Nix actually is kind of coming around here. He might outscore Jaden Daniels. He's actually not too far behind him. So MVP for me is Saquon Barkley. And at each position, Lamar, Saquon, Jamar Chase. And then for tight end, we probably got to go with Brock Bowers. And hey, Lee, good evening. We are family. We traded for Taysom Hill in both dynasties. I'm in. His schedule and Saints injuries mean he's going to be a top 5 rest of the season. I can't really disagree. It's just kind of funny because I was looking at my projections the other day, my season-long projections, and I put Taysom Hill as like a top 12 tight end, and he's right there. He's tight end 13 right now. I think rest of season, there's only a handful of guys I'd rather play over Taysom Hill rest of season, and we can name those guys. That's Brock Bowers, that's George Kittle, that's Trent McBride, that's Travis Kelce. That might be the end of the list. I think there's a huge tier right now of tight ends in the 5 to 12 range, whether it's Jonnu Smith, Cade Otton, Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz, guys like David Njoku, maybe Evan Ingram, a lot of those guys in that second tier, and Taysom belongs in that second tier. So maybe he's not quite top 5 because I think I named Bowers, Kittle, McBride, and Kelce as like the top 4. So maybe Taysom's fit there, but I think definitely a top 10 QB or a tight end the rest of season. Yeah. I think it's Josh Allen significantly. I think the Ravens would still be a good team if you took Lamar off, but what Josh Allen's doing with less is Ravens killed the Bills. Did they play each other? Oh, they did back in week 2. My bad. I missed it. Ravens 35-10. That was ugly. What happened in that game? That was the Derrick Henry game. Derrick Henry just couldn't be stopped. 200 yards rushing for Derrick Henry. Also caught a touchdown. My bad. I completely missed it. Yep, 35-10 in week 5. Got it. I mean, if you said Deshaun and Hunter Henry, like we're probably not going to see Deshaun Watson play another down anytime soon. Hunter Henry, you're never going to feel good about starting Hunter Henry. He's actually tight end number 9 on the season right now, which is nice, but we never know when Henry's going to go off. So I think Taysom Hill, it's an all-in move for this year, man. And he's getting touches, he's getting receptions, he's getting targets, he's throwing the ball, he's getting everything, which is fun. So I like the move to get Taysom Hill there. Let me see if I can find any kind of player news update for you guys. If you guys do have more questions, please keep them coming in. I will be going live tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at our normal time. Thursday, with it being Thanksgiving, I'm actually traveling up to Green Bay for Thanksgiving. I'll be at the Miami Packers game, which is kind of fun. It's the first, I think, game at Lambeau on Thanksgiving, so I'm excited to go there. Let me see what else we got. I do have a couple news blurbs here. Alexander Mattison was limited today in practice. And keep in mind, the Raiders play on Friday, so today is kind of like their Wednesday. Zamir White, DNP, so he's not on track to play. Alexander Mattison could be on track to play. And then they did list Aiden O'Connell as a full participant today with that right thumb injury. So it looks like Aiden O'Connell is going to be back, which I think actually boosts. I think O'Connell boosts guys like Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers and some of the running backs. So good news for the Raiders this week. We have Kincaid and Kmet, so Hill's my emergency third. I mean, I think at this point you might be starting Taysom Hill over both those guys, honestly. I like Kmet, but his usage has been so, I don't know. It's like whack-a-mole with him. He had a good game last week, but he had a good game up until week 6. So Kmet's still a good dynasty hold, but I'm not starting him, I think, over Taysom or Kincaid right now. And I'm a little nervous about Kincaid's dynasty value. I don't know what it's going to take for him to be fully unleashed as a receiver. He's had a lot of targets this year, but he's not really coming through on those targets. So a little bit frustrated with Kincaid right now. I think Taysom Hill is completely fine to start as your top 5 option. I think Juju is droppable in Dynasty. I'm going to hold on to Cam Akers, though, because Cam Akers, man, and we've seen, like, look at J.K. Dobbins with his Achilles. We've seen Foreman make some news, make some teams and have some good games with his Achilles recovery. Cam Akers is only 25. He just turned 25. And I think it's pretty telling that, I mean, he was the starter running back for a little bit this year with the Texans, and then he gets traded for by Minnesota, and he's completely leapfrogged Chandler already to be that number 2 back, and he's actually like earning a nice little role in the Vikings backfield. So I want Cam Akers in Dynasty. I think he's a fine hold, a guy that could get some upside value in the coming years. And who knows, next year there could be a time where Aaron Jones goes down at some point this year. Don't know what 2025 is going to hold for the Vikings running backs, but they like Cam Akers. He was on their team last year. They trade for him again. I think that's the second time they've traded for him in 2 years. So keep on Cam Akers. I think he's a good dynasty stash. Yeah, I'm not. And as much as I like George Kittle's still up there in age. George Kittle just turned 31. He's playing arguably the best ball of his career right now, but he had been an injury-prone kind of guy for the early part of his career. He's just now starting to get really consistent and play a lot of games and stay out of trouble. But for the most part, George Kittle looking like a guy that's got another good 2-3 years left in him to be an elite tight end. Yeah, that's the thing. Nobody wants to pay for him with draft capital, but they'll spend the fob. So, and Aaron Jones has been dinged up a lot in the last month or so. And the Vikings are a good team. I would bet that if Aaron Jones misses a game, we're probably all ranking Cam Akers as like a top 20-ish back for that week here. So I'm holding on to Cam Akers. I think if he's available in a dynasty league, I definitely would add him. And again, he's only 25 years old, so he's got a lot of upside. I do want to mention just a couple more. This is the Waiver Wire show. I just want to mention a couple other guys that I'm keeping my eyes on for Waiver Wire this week. Since the Chargers with J.K. Dobbins, I think you want to look at Gus Edwards for sure. And then I would imagine if Gus Edwards is out, Kamani Vidal is going to get called up and potentially be the R2 or 3. It seems like they like Hassan Haskins, though, in short yardage situations. They also used him in the passing game last week. So I'm not quite sure what the pecking order is going to be. I would imagine Gus Edwards leads the team with 10 or 12 carries. Haskins gets a couple carries, and then I think Vidal would be up. Maybe Vidal's the receiving back. I'm not sure. So just with K. Dobbins' injury history, I think both Gus Edwards, Vidal, and maybe even Haskins is worth holding onto at the bottom of your bench. Another guy that I'm looking for, and we have to wait and see what's going on with Josh Downs, but I think Adonai Mitchell could be looked at as a deep sleeper. If Blake Corum continues to look good in limited touches, if anything happens to Kieran Williams, we're looking at Blake Corum as a potential plug-and-play starting RB2. We mentioned MVS. We mentioned Jeremy McNichols. Dontavian Wicks, real quick. Romeo Dobbs, concussion. I mean, he's not playing on a short week on a Thursday night here. Maybe he's back for week 14, but I think Dontavian Wicks inserts into the wide receiver 3 spot. The Packers will run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets with Wicks out there at all times. We mentioned Luke Schoonmaker. We got to keep an eye on Jake Ferguson. Did Ferguson practice today? Let me see. Did Ferguson, so this was from a few hours ago. So Jake Ferguson worked on the side without a helmet today. That makes me a little bit nervous that we're not going to see Jake Ferguson play in this game this week. So maybe one more week of Luke Schoonmaker as your tight end number 1 option. And then we mentioned Amir Abdullah, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. So just some deeper injury for you, deeper guys for you. Yeah, I would hold on to Akers. You just never know. You think we saw the return of Chubb, or jury's still out? I mean, I'm still not too impressed with Nick Chubb yet. He hasn't shown me anything that's like he's fully back yet. Now, last Thursday night was like the perfect game for him because it was snowing, and it's just like a classic Nick Chubb kind of grinded out game. He's still not breaking off big runs, and it was Pittsburgh's defense last week, but 20 carries for 59 yards. That's not even 3 yards a carry. He did get the 2 touchdowns, which is nice. He's only had 1 game where he's been over 4 yards a carry. That was against the Saints. Maybe he's got a tough schedule, though. We're talking Denver, Pittsburgh, Kansas City his next 3 weeks. If you can ride him and get him to the championship weeks, that's Cincinnati week 16, a good spot for him. And then Miami's kind of an okay matchup. So I don't think Chubb's back. I think next year is when we're going to want Chubb on our teams. I think Chubb will be fine to draft next year. But for now, I think he's still just a touchdown or bust, running back option. But he's getting the volume, which I like. And hey, good evening to Chase Brown. Hope you're doing well, my man. My Harbies are Henry, Gibbs, Money, Connor, Chubb, and Hunt. Yeah, so we're not even using Cam Akers. I suppose if you wanted to hold on to him, that's not a bad idea. Or if you wanted to look elsewhere for wide receiver, tight end depth, it's not a bad idea. But I think holding on to Akers for at least the rest of this season is not a bad idea, just with Aaron Jones potentially being dinged up. Pittman or Waddle again this week. I'm so sick of these 2 guys, Pittman and Waddle. They are 2 of the more frustrating players right now. I'm open to Jalen Waddle riding some momentum against the Packers. I don't think we're going to see Jair Alexander, which could be a nice spot. The Packers defense has been pretty solid against opponent wide receivers. They haven't let a touchdown for the last 2 games. They really stifled, the 49ers passing game last week. But maybe Waddle is this kind of the safe play. The Dolphins are just throwing the ball a ton since Tua has returned. Let me look at Tua's passing numbers since he's returned. Tua, 7 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He threw the ball 40 times against New England, 36 against the Raiders, 28 times against the Rams, 28 times against the Bills, and 38 against the Arizona Cardinals. I still don't really trust Anthony Richardson throwing the ball. If you just make a volume play, you're going to go with Tua, which leads me to go to Jalen Waddle. I will go with Waddle here just based on volume. And even if Josh Downs doesn't play, I think the ceiling and the floor is still probably better with Jalen Waddle in a game too, by the way. So, Neighbors needs Drew Lock in there, I think, to really unlock himself. They didn't even really throw the ball at him in the first half of last week. It did look better in the second half, though, where I think he had a 0 going into halftime last week, and then he had all of his work in the second half. So there's a chance where the squeaky wheel kind of gets to the grease here with Malik Neighbors. I need to know if Josh Downs is not playing, because if Downs isn't playing, I might be open to Pittman over Neighbors. If I have to make this decision right now, I'm going to go with Waddle and Malik Neighbors, but it is looking good for Pittman if Josh Downs can't play. But for now, I'm going to lean Jalen Waddle and Malik Neighbors. That's always how it goes, man. As soon as you make a deal, I've had a couple of really untimely trades this year. Like I traded for Rashee Rice before week 1 of this season. I traded for Chris Godwin the week before he went down. Just a couple other weird things. How you feel about BTJ this week? I love Brian Thomas Jr. this week. It does look like our Trevor Lawrence is going to be back for the Jags, which would be a huge boost for him. He is probably going to get pummeled with targets, I think, if Trevor Lawrence comes back, which could be huge. You're down Gabe Davis now. You've been down Christian Kirk for a bit. If Trevor Lawrence is able to play in almost any game going forward, I would expect 10 targets for Brian Thomas Jr. if Lawrence is playing. So I think he is a guy that I'm very excited about rest of the season. And, typically rookie receivers coming off the bye week, I expect some kind of nice relaxation and a ramp up, and hopefully he's ready to dominate rest of season. Yeah. And Debo, something's up with Debo. I'm not quite sure what it is. It surely looks like Jauan Jennings is hot Debo in terms of rankings, wide receivers. So I think BTJ did look good against the Lions with Mac Jones, but with Mac Jones, Brian Thomas Jr. is more like in that Michael Pittman Jr., Jerry Jeudy, Tank Dell, Jordan Addison kind of tier where you're not quite sure what you're going to get every week. With Trevor Lawrence was playing really well before the injury, by the way. He was like QB8 for a stretch there. So if we get T-Law back, Brian Thomas Jr., I think is a must-start player. I haven't seen anything on J.K. Dobbins yet. And it's tough because, they just played last night, so we're not going to get anything too crazy. I'm seeing that it's not like bad news. But we haven't heard any news, which is making me a little bit nervous. Hopefully tomorrow, because they're going to have to put out their injury report, practice report at some point tomorrow. So we'll get an update on Dobbins tomorrow. I think if you're bidding tonight, you need to go get Gus Edwards. Oh man, so someone in my redraft league, and it was the number 1 team, and they just couldn't have. Their team was too good, and they couldn't have Jordan Addison in a redraft league. And of course, they cut him a couple weeks ago, and the team that I played last week picked up Addison, started him against me, and that's the difference of the game right there. Addison puts up 30, and I think I lost by about 15, so frustrated. But Keenan Allen looked good. Add BTJ to the Waddle Neighbors and Waddle start 2, unfortunately. I think you're starting Neighbors. And if Trevor Lawrence plays, we're not going to get that. I don't know if we're going to get that answer by Thursday night. So if I'm ranking these guys, I'm probably going to rank them Neighbors, Waddle, BTJ with Pittman Jr. down below. Concerns on Lamb. No major injury concerns on CeeDee Lamb. I think he's just at the season where he's nicked up and things like that. I thought Cooper Rush has been targeting pretty heavily, and the connection doesn't look terrible. Did CeeDee Lamb leave the game early last week? So back and foot remain limited in Tuesday's practice. So I think it's a good sign that he's at least limited. He was limited yesterday during the walkthrough, did it again today. He's on track to play, but I think we're just at that point of the season, man. It's week 13. These guys have been through a lot, and he's kind of just not practicing, not 100%, but I still expect him to go out and get his double-digit targets. He's had 2 nice games in a row. Still hasn't caught a touchdown from Cooper Rush. Maybe that happens here at home on Thanksgiving night. I like CeeDee Lamb. So no concerns on CeeDee Lamb. If someone is concerned, I'll go trade for CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, both had bad games. I'm not sure what's up with JJ. I just think maybe the defense afforded. I think the Bears are a good secondary too, so maybe the Bears just kind of focus on JJ and let Addison do the work. Bucky or Kenneth Walker in a full PPR. Bucky Irving looks like a gem right now. I think you got to go Kenneth Walker. I think it's close, but still not to the point where I got to start Bucky Irving over Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's got elite usage. He's getting a ton of passing work right now. He's the goal line back. It's against the Jets. The Jets are not a good team. I think the Seahawks could be able to control the game. Walker hasn't had any of those like monster games in a while, so I think that's probably why we're just maybe getting a little bit bored with what Kenneth's been putting out. But he's still one of the best profiles for fantasy running back, and he gets his 14, 16 carries. He gets his 2 to 4 catches. He has games now where he doesn't need a touchdown to hit double digits. So I'm going to stick with Kenneth Walker. He's the higher floor. And I think, from a boom point, we haven't seen him boom in a while. He's got easily 20-point plus upside every week. But though, at Carolina, I can see the appeal. And all of a sudden with Bucky Irving looking like he's taking over the backfield the last couple games, 12 for 87 last touchdown. They're throwing him the ball a ton, 6 for 64. My rankings are going to have Kenneth Walker ahead of Bucky, but it's going to be very, very close. I think if you want to convince me that you're going to play Bucky, you like the matchup, the numbers are looking good, I think I can accept that Bucky is a better play than Kenneth Walker this week. It's Carolina, right? Carolina has been completely awful against opponent running backs here. So if you want to do it, I'm fine with it. My rankings will have Kenneth Walker a little bit higher, I think, just from a talent perspective and just a workload against a bad Jets team. I'm going to lean Kenneth Walker by a hair. Man, it's so close. It's so close. But hey, we are past the half an hour, guys. If you guys do have any questions, you guys can always comment on this video. Hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, whatever you need. Good luck on your waiver wire runs tonight. Again, we're going to be going live tomorrow evening. We'll go live at 7 p.m. Central Time. No show on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And I just want to say thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys tonight. If you guys are new to the Fantasy Fellowship, definitely subscribe to the channel. Check out fantasyfellowship.com. I've made the start-sit charts are free on the fantasyfellowship.com. If you guys hover over the member tab, you guys can check out all of those free start-sit charts. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks for watching. Peace. Got me feeling icy.